All right, good morning, everyone. Hope you are having a nice Friday. Just refreshing the feed to make sure the video is showing up correctly. This is Paint with Lovejoy, and we are going to be painting a koi fish today. This is a viewer request. And let's see, just making sure this refreshes that it's showing up. Okay. All right, so a little bit of what you're looking at on your screen. Um, you have what you can see is a textured background on my canvas. And this is a repurposed, reused canvas. So in the description box below, there is a link on how to reuse your canvas. And basically that's just putting either gesso or white paint on top of it, then you can put a new design. I do want to make a note that using a repurposed canvas is great for practice. If you are making a painting for a friend, please go the extra mile and give them a fresh canvas that you're going to be painting on. All right, the other thing that you're seeing on the canvas is this funny little outline right here, and this is the outline of our koi fish today. So you've got two options. Pause the video, draw what you see, and don't stress about too much about it being perfect. Or if that's still a little too frustrating or intimidating for you, totally okay. At the end of the video, and there's a link in the description box below, I will upload the Traceable to my website. You can download the Traceable, and then transfer it to your canvas. And it's mainly for my first-time painters to take away some of that beginning stress of trying to draw before you paint. So just an option. But either way, once you've got your image on your canvas, jump on and grab the video again back to the painting portion. And today we are going to be doing pretty much all brushwork, and we'll be doing blue and teal in our water. And then we're going to come in and put kind of a white base on here, and it is a calico looking koi fish. So we've got some orange and black spots that we're going to put on it. And I did reference a butterfly koi. So they've got these really nice fins that come out, and they're quite decorative and kind of fun to do. So we'll be adding those at the end. If you have any questions today, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat, and I will address it while I'm painting, as well as explain the painting process. So I'm on an 8x10 canvas, so I'm going to be using a smaller brush. If you're on a larger canvas, feel free to grab a larger brush. And I'm going to start with the light blue first. So I pull some of this white paint aside. Small amount of blue goes a long way to kind of start with your mixture. And I always like to start off light and add more pigment as needed. So it's kind of good habits to get into. And if you're kind of looking at that going, do I want that color a little darker? Grab a little bit more of your pigment, and then just on the edge, you can mix it, and then you can decide, do you like the lighter or the darker? If you're having a little frustration or trouble trying to figure out what shade you want. So as you go to apply your paint, try a few different brush strokes, full width, turn it sideways and a little bit skinnier. And then the favorite one, literally just slapping your brush on your canvas, highly therapeutic. So if you have any stress or anxiety, take it out on your canvas. Literally just put your feelings into the paint and slap the paint on here. So I'm going to kind of go with a slightly kind of abstract shape of this light blue, and then I'm going to do a light teal, and then we might go for a little bit darker blue. So it might be a little patchwork of different colors. And it is kind of nice because as the koi move through their water, they're moving up different sediment on the ground. Sometimes they're moving up different things in the water. So the water does have a variety of colors around them. So if you're mixing your paint, you've got to mix it 2 or 3 times, and maybe you make a lighter shade, maybe you make a darker. Don't stress about getting the exact same shade every single time. Variety in your water is going to be to your benefit, and it just gives a little bit more depth and intrigue to your painting. Now, if you are painting on a stretched canvas like I am today, carry that color over the sides, the top, and the bottom to make it look even cooler on your wall, having that color wrap around the edge. If you are just doing this as a test painting and plan on re-gessoing your canvas like I do, don't worry about the edges. That'll just kind of waste a little more paint, especially if you're going to paint on top of it again. All right. And again, like I said, if you have to mix your color 2 or 3 times, don't stress about it. If you happen to do what I just did and you put part of your paint on the inside of your design, don't stress, take a deep breath, just relax. Acrylic paint dries pretty quickly, usually about 10 to 15 minutes. And anything that you don't like, you can just apply more paint on top of. So it's a really good versatile medium. Now for this video and any video that I create that's on my channel, you do not have to use acrylic paint to complete it. You can use anything that you want, anything that you have at home. Don't feel like you have to go buy brand new supplies unless you want to, but utilize the tools that you have at your house. All right. And then importantly, send me photos of what you guys paint. Email those to me, paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com, or tag me in the social media outlets. I'm getting more and more of those every day, so it's pretty awesome. All right, so hi Sonia and Rhonda and Denise. Thank you guys so much for jumping on and hanging out today. All right, so we're gonna make it a little bit of a darker blue before I move into the teal. I think I did just switch from what I said in the beginning, but that's part of painting. It happens. So I want you to go a little darker, a few shades darker than what you were just using. And we're going to do this while the background's wet. So as I basically take this color, and if there's an area that you want that color more, you can just slap it on top of your background, and then literally you move your brush back and forth, and it's just like mixing your color over here. You're just doing it on your background instead. And don't feel like you have to mix all of it in pretty thoroughly. Having kind of like a light area here, and then a little bit darker, and then a little bit lighter. It just gives a bit more of that water feel. It looks like I'm gonna have to throw some more white on there. Oh, going a little bit darker. And yeah, I know it's the first of the month, so if you have any frustrations, throw it into your painting. I wish we could pay our rent with our artwork that we're creating. But I know it is tough times for a lot of people, so I hope you are able to find outlets and have people that are working with you. And for any of my paintings, if you prefer a different color other than what I'm using, feel free to switch it out. You have full permission to deviate from the path. And definitely send me those pictures if you deviate from what I do or change it. I like seeing those. All right. And I still want to go a little darker. There we go. Then we're going to take some of this teal and do the same thing. We're going to slap it right on top of our blue and start mixing it in together. Now, because I am on a re-gessoed canvas, my paint's actually drying a lot quicker than it usually does. So you may have to sometimes adjust what you do and how you treat the paint based on what your tools are doing for that day. So if you are working with paint that dries kind of quickly, it's going to make you work a little bit faster, and that's not a bad thing. And it's also going to make you adapt and adjust a little bit. So maybe you're stepping out of your comfort zone even more by painting faster or doing it in an untraditional manner. So I took some of the white, added a touch of teal, and I'm actually wanting it a little bit darker after I threw that first spot on there. But we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to slap it on top of here and then blend it in with that blue underneath. And then you can always go back to that blue, throw it back on there, and just play with it. But you want to do everything to your background now before we move into working on our koi fish. And if you're even inclined to grab the direct pigment, slap it on there, give it a try. This is where I want you to trust your instincts. In the creative realms, your instincts are naturally guiding you in the correct direction. If you kind of find that you're getting a good clump of paint here and you want it lighter, grab that pure white, put it right next to it, just wiping off the extra paint, and then do that same thing. So you could actually put globs of paint on here and literally just blend them in. So play, trust yourself, have fun. If you are working with paint that is drying on the very swift side, you can always add a touch of water to your brush, but you never want your brush dripping wet. And I don't want you to rely on adding water for blending a lot. I would rather you actually apply your paint a little bit thicker. But there are things that we have to adjust sometimes as environments change. All right, and Awesome, Denise. Glad you like the various shades of blue. And actually, let's grab a little bit of that dark blue. And we're going to be imagining that he's maybe making these water lines come here. And if you're following along at home, like I said, don't feel like you have to do everything that I do. I'm just doing this as a guideline, as a base for you. Trust your instincts, change it up, try different things, deviate from what I do. Totally okay. So I am just grabbing more of that white. And sometimes by adding that white in there, it gives it a little bit more creaminess to mix with compared to sometimes just the pigment. So like I said, with each brand of paint, you'll find different nuances that make them awesome, and then you may find some stuff that makes them not so awesome. Kind of like life. And even though that my paint is drying on the swifter side, sometimes that's an added benefit. Like I said, when you step up to paint, I encourage all my students who are adult kindergartners, unless you're an actual kindergartner, and I do have some actual kindergarten students, but most of my students are adults painting for the first time. So I really just want you to be extra kind to yourself as you are stepping out of your comfort zone, as you're reverting back to remembering how fun it was just to paint and be creative for the sake of being creative. As adults, I think we're stimulated too much to have very specific results that other people want, and maybe not the results that you want. So painting is the place that you can escape all of that. Certainly the reason why I paint. So as this is drying a little bit more, I'm just kind of grabbing my darker colors and kind of putting them on light, and then when I go back to move my brush on top of it, I'm not using a whole lot of pressure. So again, just kind of play with it. And as you're doing this at home, get out of your chair, prop your painting up, get out of your chair and look at it from 5 or 10 feet away. This is more of the normal viewing distance for most things in art, in life, and especially artwork. So the more you can kind of start looking at your painting from that perspective, you can change and add things and adjust for how it's going to be looked at. And like I said, don't be upset if you like it a little bit more from that distance, because everything in life looks better from a distance. All right, so this actually went completely different than what I planned before I hit play on the video. And that's just part of art. So again, if you start to deviate and do something different during the creative process, trust that and just go with it. Your instincts are pushing you in the direction you need to go. And I actually can't remember if I said it yet already, but I'll say it again. If you're holding your breath, big inhale. If you're just watching the video, listening to my voice, still take a big, deep breath. Just relax. Anytime that you feel stress or pressure coming on, remember to breathe. Okay, so I think I'm almost at a point to where I like this. And then we'll be moving on to adding our koi fish on here. And by the time I get to doing the fins and the tail, this will actually all be dry. And if you happen to go, like I said, over those lines, totally okay. And let's go a little more blue. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I recommend progress photos. So after you do your background, your progress photo would be another opportunity. Okay, so now I'm getting a little carried away. All right. It's a good thing. Okay, not bad. Oh, awesome. We got a new joiner. Hi, Lois. Thank you for joining. I'm really glad you enjoy the painting lessons. Okay, so I'm going to look at it from the screen. There we go. So a little trick of the trade. When you take your picture with your cell phone and then you look at your painting on your cell phone screen, it's literally the same thing as looking at your painting from 20 feet away without getting out of your chair. So I actually just stood up and looked at what my painting looked like on the camera, and I was like, okay, that works. So just kind of a way that you can cheat. If you want to see your painting from that distance, take your progress photo and look at it on your phone for a little bit. All right. Okay, so we're going to kind of put a base of white on here, and I'm going to work fairly quickly just because my paint is drying super fast. But we're going to put our base of white on here. Then we'll start working with some of our orange and black spots and some shading on our fish. And then, like I said, our last parts are going to be the fins that come off. Okay, so super exciting for this part. I know, white on a white canvas. And literally, I do want you to apply it kind of thick, so that way I have some base to kind of put my colors into. And I am coming very conscious, being very careful as I come close to my wet paint on the background, because this white color will pick up everything that it's next to. If you happen to get some of your background color in your white paint, just take a paper towel, wipe it off, and then reapply your wet paint. And if you are painting at home and you're not painting along during this live version, I would recommend pausing the video, letting your background dry, and then moving into doing your koi. Okay. And if you do this and your koi ends up getting a little bit whiter, a little bit more well-fed, that's okay. You just have a healthy koi in a pond that gets a lot of people that come by and feed them. So if your koi starts to change or anything as you're painting it, don't freak out. I tell all my students that painting is a conversation between yourself and the canvas. The canvas always wins, so do not fight it. Basically just don't fight it. So if your canvas is encouraging you, if the art is encouraging you to go in a direction, go in that direction. Okay, so before we put our black and our orange spots on, we're going to do a little bit of shading. We would have a little bit of a shadow hanging out here, and then we do have a little bit on the sides of the fish. And because the fish is in the water, the reflected shadows would have a hint of blue to it. So I'm actually going to take a medium kind of blue shade, kind of closer to the lighter side. And we're going to do that stabbing blending method. So I'm going to place this color on my koi fish, and then we'll go back and blend it with that stabbing method. So I'm basically going to be putting it right in the center right there. And then we're going to do a little on this side. I'm going to keep this pretty open. There's not too much shadow on there except for a little bit here where the eye would be. And then back on the tail, I'm going to go just a touch darker. So I'm grabbing just a little bit of that pigment just to go right on top of there. Then I'm actually going to wipe that brush off, and I'm going to clean it because I don't want to be adding more of that blue paint. I just want to mix the blue paint that I put on there into that white. All right, whoops, just lost a brush. There we go. Okay, so for that stabbing method, it is a lot of fun. You can take out any stress or frustration, and literally it's just a bunch of dots. And what it's doing, I'm using just kind of the ends of the bristles for this. It's picking up a little bit of that white, it's picking up a little bit of that blue, and it's kind of smushing them together. So it gets rid of that kind of dark line. And yep, drying really fast. So if you need to grab just a touch more white so you have some moist paint to work in with it, go right ahead. And I might have to do that same thing on that shadow in the back. Nope, it's still doing okay. And then as I get to this point where I'm picking up, trying to make sure my hand's not in there, to where I'm picking up more of that darker space, that's when you get a little bit more pigment, and just be a little more controlled with the dabbing. It doesn't have to be super fast. You don't have to keep pace with me. Just checking to see if there's any other shadow spaces. Let's pull that up a little bit here and diffuse. There we go. And again, while you're painting at home, all you're doing is observing the placement that I will put these colors, and do the best of your ability to apply that in the same general area and shape on your canvas. It will be different. That's part of the beauty of art. And again, you're training your eye-hand coordination quite a bit to go, okay, she put this here, let me put this on mine. And the more that you do that training, that eye-hand coordination training, the easier it's going to be as you start looking at other things and as you continue to create. So creative exploration is a compounding experience to where what you learned the first time that you painted will make more sense the second time you painted. And what you learned the second time you painted will make more sense the third time that you paint. So it is exponential. So keep on painting. All right, so I'm going to move right into the orange, and then we'll move into the black. And literally these are just abstract shapes on our koi. So they don't have to be perfect. And I'm going to keep with that same kind of dotting method. If you want to kind of blob it on there a little bit more, totally okay. Oops. I got a little too much talking there, went over the edge of my fish. Let's see, he's got a little bit of a mouth here. And if you have a particular koi fish that you want the markings to look like that, just again, you're going to look at that photograph, observe the shape and the placement of where you see some of those, and mimic that to the best of your ability. And observational skills is a good skill set to have. I would assume most business employers would want you to be observant in what they've hired you to do. So painting does help improve that observation. Okay, so I'm actually going to see, no, my background's actually still a touch wet, so let's give it a little bit longer before we put the fins on. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the same thing. We're going to do the little dots with the black while we're letting the background dry. And I'm going to, again, just keep with that same kind of dabbing method. Now, compared to the orange, the black is a rather strong color, so a little bit goes a long way. So you probably won't use nearly the same amount of orange when you're using the black. And it is okay if it overlaps the orange a little bit. And if it even diffuses a little bit, if your white paint's still a little wet, it's okay to have a few places where it's really dark black. Maybe it's a little more dark medium gray here. Maybe it's a little orangish black because it overlapped there. Don't stress about this being absolutely perfect. Painting is generally creating an illusion of the space that's there. And I tell all my students that you are magicians because you are creating the illusion of a 3D object on a flat 2D surface. All right. And if you want to turn any of these into a specific shape, maybe it's heart shapes, maybe it's a circle, maybe it's something specific to you, but modify your fish to what you want. All right, so we're going to clean that brush really good, and I may go for that pointy brush. So if you don't like using this one, jump down to your pointy brush, and we're going to get those fins on there first. So we're going to start with the white, and we'll start back here at the tail. So we're going to extend the tail, and then we've got a little bit of the tail coming underneath, and then we'll kind of fill in the center. So again, just kind of observe the place of where the lines are going. And I'm going to start at the edge of the tail. And these are butterfly koi, so they have those really fancy tails, kind of like betta fish. So you can get rather expressive with them. And then we would kind of come towards the center. So this is the tail shape. And I was just kind of using little dash marks to get that center of the tail. We're going to come back and add more to it. But let's get our other fins on here. So again, we've got another fin kind of shooting off this way and then shooting off here. And same thing, it's the butterfly koi. So they have their very, very fancy, let's see, it's coming about right here. So as you're looking at the head, you know, you don't want it kind of coming up close. We're kind of starting at that base, coming about right here. And let's see, it's probably maybe 2 inches from kind of the nose. So we're going about this area. You don't want to go too far up here, but you want to kind of keep it from here to this section of where you're putting these fins in. So easier once you can see it. And then same thing. And you generally want these to be very similar. So similar placement. So if you take your brush, kind of hold it hovered above, holding at this tip, you're going to go right across the body of your koi. And then that's the spot where your next fin's going to come out. And this one's going to curve a little bit. All right, and then we're going to come back here at the base. They're a little bit shorter. And then let's get that perimeter in. We're going to come back in with more details. Same thing for this guy here. All right, we're just getting their base shapes on right now. And there's 2 other fins that we have to do. And then we'll start filling those in. There's a little one here. So if you're looking at this base, we're kind of cutting from this fin to the tail. We're kind of cutting it in half and starting about right here. And then the other fin's going to be about right here. So not quite half on this side, more like 1/3 from the base fin. So this side, we're cutting it about in half. Come about right here. And this one's like a little, almost triangle looking fin. So it's a little bit longer out there, a little bit shorter as it gets closer towards the body. And then this one on this side, starting here, going up about 1/3 of the way. You could kind of, this one's at a bit more of an angle. So if you hover your brush over that last fin, hover over at a slight angle, that's going to be the placement of our next one coming out. And this one's turning a little bit as he is turning in the water. Okay. Not bad. All right, so now we're going to fill that space in, and we're going to do some shading and then some details on our koi. So going back to that white, we're going to start back at that tail, basically just kind of filling that in to get a good base, and then we're going to go in with our shades just like we did on the body. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, today I am doing the San Diego Humane Society live feed on their Facebook page today. So I'll be actually leaving my house and heading to the Humane Society. We are in a giant open room, and it's me and the videographer. But I'll be painting a black and white kitten, celebrating their kitten season. And if you jump on over to the San Diego Humane Society Facebook page, 2 p.m. is when they will have that demo. And it is the black and white kitten on my Paint with Lovejoy page. You can find it on the YouTube channel. It's the black and white kitten with the pink background. And I believe the kids at home will be following along, and they'll be using crayons, markers, colored pencils. I think some of them will be painting, but should be fun. All right, so now we have to go in with that shading. So we're going to do the same thing that we did on the body. We're going to make that light blue. Then we'll come in with our orange, then we'll come in with some black. All right, so you didn't necessarily need to clean your brush. I think that was just habit. So we're gonna make that light blue again. There we go. And this one, I think instead of the dabbing method, we'll do a little bit more of the lines to kind of just keep with the vibe and the flow of what the tail is doing. So let's see, a lot of times the tail is slightly transparent, so it may look like it kind of blends in with the water. That's to your benefit. And again, you're just looking at the placement of where I put this and mimic that to the best of your ability. It does not have to be perfect. And again, remember to breathe. If you're finding that you're shaky, if you exhale as you touch the canvas, that will make you a little less shaky. What makes you shaky is the fact that you are not bringing oxygen into your body, and your muscles start to freak out a little bit. That's why you shake. So when you see that you're shaking, it means you're not breathing. Okay, so let's go move in with the orange. And there's just a little bit on the orange. There's actually more on the tail than there are on the front fins. So I'm going to start on that front first. And we kind of have these little spots. And again, I'm just kind of keeping with those little dash marks. Go back over here. And I am trying to hold the brush so that way my hand's not in front of it for the video. And I can't quite see my camera at the moment, so hopefully it's working. If not, I will try to adjust for the next video. Bringing that all the way into that tail. And it is kind of nice to have that really pure white right here next to kind of this edge of the tail. And I did go a little bit over that blue. And again, that just kind of plays with the transparency that's happening. Oh, we got a few on these little fins too. And then I think we've got a few little black spots on there. And then we have a few little whiskers to put on, and I'll use the pointy brush for that. And again, if anything that has been done with this brush, if it's too much, just move down to the pointy brush. And same thing for the black, just grabbing a little touch of black, small amount goes a long way. And I am kind of keeping light pressure as I do this, because I just want these to be kind of small little lines. If this is too much with the brush, you could do this with a toothpick. You have a little bit more control with that, so feel free to give it a try. But the more that you paint, the more comfortable it becomes to hold your brush with light pressure. So for my beginner painters, be really kind to yourself. Your brain and your muscles are taking on so much information right now. They're learning how to hold the brush. They're learning what it looks like to mix colors together. You're learning to be kind to yourself as you step out of your comfort zone, and you're not going to get it all on the first try. I think the phrase that I've been hearing quite a bit, and I kind of like it, it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. So you're not going to be an amazing, awesome artist right from the get-go. You do have to practice. You're going to have to struggle. You're going to have to learn things. That's what makes the learning valuable. And then being able to see where you're learning, that's just awesome. So keep your progress pictures, and in a year from now, I want you to look at your photos, go back and look at your beginning photos, and you have a visual documentation of how much you learned, or learnt. Can't remember which one's the correct one. And it's very fulfilling, because a lot of stuff that we do, we don't have that documentation of our growth. So painting, when you take your pictures, is one of the few things that we can see how far we've come. Now that video has become so much more popular, I think it will be easier to keep a documentation of that, but not everybody has access to video. Okay, so we've got a few whiskers on our koi, on his mouth, and I believe that brings us to the conclusion. So those little whiskers, I'm actually going to do them with white, excuse me, and the pointy brush. And again, if this gets too much with the pointy brush, you can move down to that toothpick, or paper clip actually would work well. And I'm just going to reshape his mouth just a little bit, and we'll go back with the orange. So we're giving him his little lips. And now just going back with that dabbing for the orange. Nice. All right, it looks cute. If you do feel like outlining anything, you can do that. If you want to add more, if you want to go back and do a second round with your white on top of the fins, it will make them pop a little bit. But yeah, cute little koi fish. And feel free to change it up as needed. So that was a fun painting today, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for gifting me your time while you watched this, whether it was live or for the replay. And feel free to jump on and check me out on the San Diego Humane Society page at 2 o'clock today. And I'll be here tomorrow morning at 11. So hope you have a great day. Have an awesome weekend, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Cheers.